lost and I know nowhere else to go now. I don't really have a place to call my home now. Everybody hating on I feel so cold now. Why do everybody make me feel alone? Like I'm trying lost and I know nowhere else to go now. I don't really have a place to.
Okay, thanks for being here for me, Fu said as she looked up to Naruto. Anytime Naruto said, looking at her with a slight blush. Hey Naruto, do you really think that I'll be a good wife? Fu asked, avoiding the blonde gaze. Yeah, why would you ask? I mean, you're awesome to talk to, and despite what everyone in the village thinks of you, you got in of the kindest heart I've ever seen. In my own personality, my opinion, you're not exactly ugly, so why wouldn't you be a good wife? Naruto said, looking at the green haired female beside him. Thanks, Naruto. I know it may not seem like it, but sometimes I'm not sure what if to do if you weren't around, Fu said as she let her head rest on his chest. Naruto once again felt her heart speed up once again. However, he soon felt his body relax into the feeling. After several moments of silence between the two had passed, another bolt of lightning struck out loud. Roar of thunder came behind it. Naruto felt his arm tightening around Fu's out of pure instinct. But oddly enough, he didn't feel her body tensed up. He then looked down at the green haired female in front of him. He then noticed that Fu's eyes were shut and that her face had a rather peaceful expression on her face. She actually looks really cute when she's asleep, Naruto thought to himself, as she looked down at the female in front of him. Naruto's eyes then widened at this own thought, and he shook his head slightly, trying to clear his head of his thoughts that had just filled his head. I can't think about Fu that way. We're best friends. I would ruin our friendship, Naruto thought as he once again looked down at the female in front of him. Although I guess it's not unusual that I would think about her like that, right? Naruto thought to himself as he continued to look down at the female. I mean, we have been through so much together. Without her, I don't think that living with her would be the same. I should have probably asked someone about this, Naruto thought to himself as he looked down at the female in front of him. Naruto then reached his free hand around her and placed under her leg and slowly lifted her up as it not disturb her sleep. The blonde then got up and walked to the door. He once again began to think about something. I can't take food back to her room. She just wake up again. Then again, I can't just leave her in my room, can I? Naruto thought to himself, and he would have to continue if Fu hadn't begun to move slightly in his arms. Naruto, the Fu said, and the female said with her eyes slightly closed. Naruto felt his face heat up slightly, and looked down at her. She was dreaming about me. She she looked so happy, Naruto thought to himself. As he looked at her, he then looked at the door in front of him, then turned slightly looked at his bed. He then looked at the door once more, before he let out a small sigh and began walking over to his bed. Naruto placed food down slightly and covered her. Naruto, the green-haired female, once again mumbled in her sleep. Naruto once again looked at her and smiled at this. He then leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. When he did this, Safu smiled in her sleep, and a slight blush crossing her face. Naruto then quietly walked over to the other side of the bed, crawling in it. I guess sleeping together one night won't hurt anyone, Nacho told himself, as he also felt himself slowly starting to drift off to sleep. However, just as he was starting to flash off, lightly struck the house, and Naruto once again felt Fu tensed up. Naruto, Fu once again said in her sleep. Only Naruto, this time it sounds like a little more panic. Naruto turned around and looked at the sleeping female. He once again found himself in a situation where he wasn't sure what to do. So this again did the first thing he came to mind. He slowly placed one of his arms around Fu's waist and brought himself closer to her so that his chest was touching her back. He once again felt relaxed at this. Naruto smiled at this, but then he out a yawn. This is going to be real hard to explain in the morning, Naruto thought to himself as he slowly felt himself drifting off to sleep with Goro and Kakashi. Where are those two? Guru questioned, becoming a little more irritated at this. Went on. They do know that we are supposed to meet up at this gate, right? Shio questioned, looking at the gray hair male in front of him. Yeah, there are only three gates in the entire village, and this one is the only that most views. There's no way they could have possibly forgotten and confused, Guru said, looking at the male. If May Kakashi said, grin, Guru, attention. I request permission to go look for them. Kakashi said, looking at him. Be my guest, Guru said, looking at him. Kakashi then did some of his trademark eyes smile before vanishing in a puff of smoke. If you don't mind me asking, just who are we waiting for? A pink hair female girl recognized as she female of the Team 7 as looking at him. Their names are Naruto and Fu, Guru said looking at them. When he said this, it caught the attention of a certain raven hair male. Naruto? There's no way. It has to be a different Naruto. That's the only explanation Sasuke thought as he looked at Guru. However, as this time went on, Sasuke found himself becoming more and more annoyed by the fact that his name was Naruto and looked at the only gaining that was with him. Excuse me, but what are those last names? Sasuke asked, looking at him. Their last names are, Guru asked, looking at the raven hair male, causing him to nod. Why in the earth would you want to know their last name? I guess there's no harm in by telling their but safe than sorry, Guru thought as he looked at the male in front of him. The truth be told, their orphanage. They don't have any last name, Guru said, looking at him. Well, at least this is the half of the fool. Doesn't have the last name, Guru thought, as he looked at the male in front of him. Orphanage, huh? This is the real strange. Starting to sound like Naruto and left Konoha, no problem. And can be impossible? The Naruto that left Konoha died 3 weeks after he left, Sasuke thought to himself. As he looked the adult in front of him, why do you want to know their last names, Sasuke-kun? The pink-haired female asked, looking at him. I just thought it would be better if we gotten an idea who we were working with, Sasuke said, looking at the pink-haired female. Oh, that's so smart, Sasuke-kun, Sakura said, as she got much closer to the male. After a few more moments of silence, they saw three figures walking towards the gates. The white-haired male with his headband covering with one of his eyes, and a green-haired female with orange eyes, with some white clothes, that some may consider little revealing. However, it was the third figure that caught Sasuke's attention. He had blonde hair, blue eyes. He may not have remembered much of what Naruto looked like. After all, they were kids. Sasuke only never saw Naruto one or two times before the day he helped Naruto leave the village. However, he had something that made him concerned. This was Naruto. He knew he had the three whiskers on either side of his face. Well, good job, Kakashi. I underestimated you, Guru said, looking at the male in front of him. He then turned his attention to the two figures in front of him. Mind telling me where you two were? Guru said, looking at them. Let's just say those two were getting to know each other, Kakashi said, looking at the man in front of him, causing the two younger figures in front of them to blush a little and look away from each other slightly. Guru then looked at the silver-haired male in front of him and decided to just brush it off. What he had just said? Alright, well, now that was over, Team 12 of Konoha. I would like you all to meet the member of Team 7, Sai. Is one of the below cuts of the girl is Sakura, and the guy wearing a blue is Sasuke, Guru said. Looking at the two of them, when Naruto heard this name, Sasuke, he looked around and found the male that he thought was the same boy who had helped him escape from Konoha so many years ago. So that's Sasuke, huh? I'll have to remember to thank him before of all of these years over, Naruto thought to himself as he looked at him. Yes, now it's your turn, Team 7. This is Team 12 of Konoha. They'll be helping us with guarding the hero water. The blonde is Naruto, the girl of the three is Fu, and this one with the white hair is Shiro, Kakashi said, looking at the three of them. Alright now, if you don't mind me, we better start moving. The sooner we get there, the sooner we get the job done. And the sooner we have to can leave, Guru said, looking at them, and Kakashi nodded, and the eight of them left the gates and began to walk down the path. We're walking on a small pond. The two eldest members of the group then approached each other. Having the spotted any unusual, girl asked, looking at the male in front of him. No, I haven't seen anything ever since we got here, Kakashi said, looking at Guru. I know, it's a little strange. I think we may have been getting some bad information, Guru said, looking at Kakashi. It's possible. Then again, we still have a few days left. I wouldn't underestimate our opponents. It could be quite fatal, Kakashi said, looking at him. Yeah, I guess you're right, Guru said, looking at Kakashi. Three men then walked up of the two of them. Who are you? Guru asked, looking at the male closely. We're here to take your place while you and your team go on break, one of the males said, looking at them. Kakashi turned to his team when he heard this. Sakura, Sasuke Sai, seems like we got a break. You three can quit patrolling now, Kakashi said, looking at them. Sakura sighed when she heard this and walked over to the nearby stump. I don't see now how they all do it. The only one who seems to be out of breath besides me and Shiro and Sakura thought as she looked over to her team, and the team that she was currently working with was Naruto sat down on the rock with Fu coming beside him and taking the seat next to him. Tired, Naruto? Asked Fu, looking at the blonde. No, I'm not tired. Why not rest a while? We have The chance, Naruto said, looking at the green hair friend. I guess you have a point, Fu said as she leaned back slightly. Naruto did not notice what the female had just done. Decided to almost lean back when they did. Their hand touches slightly. The two pulled their hand back each other, having a slight red blush and not looking at each other. Neither of them anything, and Naruto moved his hand back to where it was just a moment ago. When he did, he once again felt his hand. This time, however, he moved his hand over the top of Fu's. After a few seconds he had passed, Naruto got nervous. However, that nervousness faded away when Fu turned her hand around and lanced her fingers with his. It's a nice day out, isn't it? Naruto asked as he looked up to the clouds. When he did, he felt heat suddenly make itself known on his shoulder. Yeah, it is really nice out, Fu said, leaning her wrist on his shoulder. Kakashi seeing his smile under his mask. Well, it's nice to know that leaving Konoha wasn't a major failure for Naruto, Kakashi thought to himself as he looked at the two in front of him. I wonder if Jiraiya already knows about his location, Kakashi asked to himself as he looked at the sky. So you see, it's too much. Kakashi suddenly heard a new voice way from behind him. The silver-haired male looked behind him and saw Shiro walking towards him. Yeah, it's not hard to tell how they feel about each other, Kakashi said, looking at the younger male. They look just like Obito and Rin, Kakashi thought to them. So you think that there will actually be an attack? Guru asked, looking at the male in front of him. It's hard to say, but we should let our guard down, Kakashi said at the male in front of him. Of course, we shouldn't, Guru said as he noticed the raven-haired male from Konoha walk towards Naruto and Fu. He stopped just in front of them and grinned at attention of the two that was a moment were still sitting on the rock. Hey Naruto, mind if I speak with you? In private, Sasuke asked, looking at the blonde. Oh, sure, I guess. Naruto said as he got up and followed the male to a more private location. So, what's up, Sasuke? Naruto asked, looking at the male in front of him. Are you Naruto Sumaki from Konoha? Sasuke asked, looking at the blonde in front of him. Naruto looked a little confused and grew a little nervous. Yeah, don't you remember me? Where the one that helped me escape? Naruto asked, looking at the man in front of him. Yeah, I remember, but the thing is, you're supposed to be dead, Sasuke said, looking at Naruto. When he said this, the blonde eyes widened, and he looked at Sasuke. What do you mean I'm supposed to be dead? Naruto asked, looking at him. Well, a week after you left Konoha, the Hokage got a report that they had found a burned body of a child that matched your description. Several different people analyzed the body, and they all came to the same conclusions that a boy supposed to be Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke said, looking at the man in front of him. Why would you think that it was me? Naruto asked, looking at him with a very confused face. Well, like I said, the body was burned, so they couldn't recognize it in the least. So they found that he was unmatured, like you were. He was around your height, and he had sealed in his stomach, just like what you have, Sasuke said. Looking at Naruto, Naruto placed his hand on his stomach and mentioned of the seal. It's true that he always had the strangest marks on his stomach, but he had never actually thought anything of it. So how did everyone take it? Naruto asked, looking at Sasuke. Well, Most of the villagers celebrated for the entire week. The shop were giving out free food and candy, and then sake was being passed around like it was a daily occurrence. Then some others, like the Hokage, just went into salutation for a while. The teachers in the academy, Iruka actually was in home for a month straight, not leaving to go to the academy or even buying food. He just kind of shut down for an entire month, Sasuke said, looking at the blonde in front of him. They celebrated my death? I guess I shouldn't be surprised after all the entire village except for a few selected people hated me, so I actually makes sense that they could go crazy and be happy that I'm gone. Although it is nice to hear that there's some people who were upset to see me leave. I just didn't think they'll be that happy that I was gone. I mean, they treat me almost as bad as this village treats food. The only difference is that I'm not a Jinchuriki, Naruto thought as near the end of his train of thought it all clicked and suddenly made sense to him. Those hateful filled stares at the night they would drink and beat him up while calling him names like demon and monster. It just all made sense after that. Naruto then looked down at his stomach. Then those markings are I'm just like a fool, Naruto thought to himself as he looked back up at Sasuke. Well, thanks, Sasuke. I guess it's good to know that someone actually cares about me, Naruto said, looking at him. Sure thing, Sasuke said, looking at the blonde. Also, I would like to thank you for helping me all those years ago. Without your help, I'm not sure if I could have left Konoha, so thanks, Sasuke. It really means a lot to me, Naruto said, looking at the male in front of him. However, it's the two of them had been paying closer attention that they would have noticed the male that was just a few trees away that ever present and a smile on his face. So this is the real Naruto Uzumaki from Konoha. Well then, Lord Danzo will be very pleased to hear about his location, sighed Dot as he walked back towards the lake. As Naruto and Sasuke walked back to the large lake, they suddenly heard a sound of a kunai flying through the air. As the two of them jumped towards and looked back to see that there were several kunais on the ground, and the other, of course, heard a sound that made when it hit the ground, and everyone looked at them. When they did, several men appeared in front of them. Naruto and Sasuke seemed like I missed. Well, I good thing that I usually don't miss twice, the man said as he launched another kunai at Sasuke. When he did, he saw that the male eyes turned red and there was two tomoe on his Sharingan. It seems like we have another rather special here, boss. How much do we think someone would pay for those eyes of his? Another male asked as he stepped forward. I don't know. I guess there's only one way to find out. One of the males said, stepping forward as he did. Kakashi and Guru jumped in front of the two. Seems like we have another payday, boss. Kakashi of the Sharingan, I bet someone will pay even more money for his eyes, the male said, looking at Kakashi. I don't know about that. Why would someone pay for just one Sharingan? Why would they have such a match set? Another male said as he looked at Sasuke. Stay away from Sasuke, Sakura said, looking at the man in front of her. One of the male head turned to his head and looked at the female and smiled. Hey boss, I think I'll take the woman, the male said, looking at the pink hair female.